Hi, Jean Schnupp here. Welcome to another Savvy Sightseer video vacation. This time we are venturing out west to the sunny skies of Arizona. While it is known as the Grand Canyon State, there's so much more to Arizona, and that's the focus of this program. The Grand Canyon will star in another one devoted to it and other national parks in the region. Now we'll start in Phoenix, the state's capital and most populous city, and work our way north to the Utah border. As we go, we'll visit some iconic and intriguing spots from nearby Scottsdale and Tempe to the aptly named Superstition Mountains and the alluring Lost Dutchman Mine. There's Tortilla Flat and Canyon Lake. We'll travel through some desert vistas up to mystical Sedona and end up at the Utah border with a fantastical geologic vision. Everyone has probably seen Arizona type scenery on TV. Deserts seem to be the key backgrounds for every car commercial these days. Now you'll find out what the advertisers have learned. Wide open spaces and bright desert sun make for brilliantly cinematic driving scenes. With history spanning thousands of years and ever changing inhabitants, Arizona has much to offer. So we better get started. Benefiting from a series of national projects to harness the Salt River's water and power, Phoenix became a prosperous town and an important agricultural center in the early 20th century. Irrigation made possible from the Salt River projects led Phoenix to being able to provide winter vegetables and grain for much of the West, resulting in a population boom. They went from about 5,500 residents in 1900 to nearly 30,000 by 1920. But as Easterners flocked to the growing metropolis, they sought to adapt it to their liking, not the other way around. They wanted grass lawns and trees like they'd had back home, and considered the desert itself a blighted landscape. In 1926, the Valley Beautiful Committee, supported by the Chamber of Commerce, even launched an initiative dubbed Do Away with the Desert. Countering it was Save the Desert campaign, which was designed to conserve the local landscape. That group was led by Swedish botanist Gustav Stark, an expert on desert plants, who had moved to Phoenix to study the region's unique plant life. He contended, Phoenix will grow very large, and we will lose our natural desert with its distinctive flora. Already, newcomers try to recreate the landscapes they left behind. We must educate them to the beauty of our Sonoran Desert. To accomplish that, he proposed a botanical garden that would display and interpret the desert to those, he said, fail to appreciate its beauty. He partnered with local Gertrude Webster, heiress of a large lumber fortune and a prominent social and political figure. Together, they secured a land grant to build a garden, and in 1938, they planted its first cactus in the outskirts of Phoenix. The following year, the botanical garden opened to the public, with a ceremony attended by about 200 people. Just as the plantings flourished, so did the center, growing and expanding its offerings over the years. Today, well over 500,000 visitors stroll the Living Museum's 55 acres with over 50,000 plants, both native and rare. These are just a few of the delightfully different species at the park. Of particular note is the picture in the top left, the saguaro. It's the largest cactus in the U.S. and can grow up to 50 feet tall and live up to 200 years. Its blossom, which comes out only in the spring, is Arizona's state flower. Unlike the cactus itself, the saguaro flowers have a remarkably short life, less than 24 hours. They open at night, remain so through the next day, and then close permanently. So you can imagine how excited I was that they were in bloom while I was there. 5 trails ranging from 1/10 to 1/3 of a mile take walkers through different aspects of the park, from wildflowers like you see here to herbs and edibles and natural desert settings. Over the years, locals have done an about-face in their view of the desert environment, now embracing it as part of what makes Phoenix special and a place worth living in. The work of the garden, officials say, has gone beyond simply preserving and documenting plant specimens to fostering a sense of place and identity among the citizens. One of the more unique paths has much more than just cacti. The Plants and People of the Sonoran Desert Loop Trail looks at the symbiotic relationship between the two and demonstrates how plants had been used by native people for food, medicine, and building materials. Western Apache, one of 21 tribes of the Southwest, typically built these dome-shaped homes from willow saplings held together by split yucca leaves and thatched with cottonwood and willow branches. These structures are still used for cultural and ceremonial events in southern Arizona. Mesquite timbers were used to structure corrals and open-air kitchens. Also in the park is a contemplation garden. The spiral design creates a meditative labyrinth shaped in swirls of terrazzo and is an example of the center's evolution. It has become increasingly multisensory and functional, hosting various experiences and events for visitors of all ages. There's a butterfly house to wander through, seasonal music series, plant sales, and such unusual activities as Dog's Day in the Garden and a Chilies and Chocolate Festival. Workshops and classes run the gamut from photography to cooking, history to science, landscape and gardening, and even travel and adventure. In 2022, I hit it lucky to be there during a temporary program called Chihuly in the Desert: Art, Architecture, Nature. Dale Chihuly, a world-renowned glass artist from Washington State, has studied and collaborated with glass artisans the world over. He pioneered a new way of working, relying on gravity and centrifugal force to let molten glass find its shape in its own organic way. This exhibit is part of his series Chihuly in the Park, A Garden of Glass, which he started in 2001 to display his work in conservatories and gardens across this country as well as Europe. He continues to dabble with different techniques, even weaving tapestries into glass and marrying his art with light and sound for a more dramatic encounter. These glass reeds, named for a rare earth metal that produces a purple-blue compound, bring a burst of violet color to its desert surroundings. The artist explains, "I want people to be overwhelmed with light and color in some way that they've never experienced." He certainly accomplished that goal, at least with me. Chihuly's reeds theme draws inspiration from an experimental phase the artist had when working in Finland. The dramatic, long, tubular-shaped glass art forms require one glass blower to be elevated by a mechanical lift. He then blows through a pipe to encourage the glass to stretch, while another blower pulls the glass to the ground. The darting lines of red reeds offer a powerful contrast to the springtime green surrounding it. The colorful Sonora neon, on the other hand, is best seen at night, when they illuminate so-called tumbleweeds during Chihuly after dark. Desert fiori, or flowers, epitomize Chihuly's love of organic, free-flowing forms that emulate the natural world. Sol de Citron is Chihuly's vision of a large, fragrant citrus fruit that mimics the sun with its explosion of coiled pieces of glass. It reportedly took 5 days, 4 installers, and over 1,200 pieces of glass to set it up. Fiori Boat greeted visitors at the entry to the garden, filled with 179 whimsical, nature-inspired forms, all types of flora and fauna. It combines 2 of the artist's popular themes, fiori, which is Italian for flower, and boats, and is said to showcase his penchant for organic, free-flowing forms that evoke the natural world. In addition to the dozen outdoor sculptures, the exhibit continues indoors with stunning displays, such as these vivid flowers from the sunflower family. About 12 miles from downtown Phoenix is Scottsdale, which was named for U.S. Army Chaplain Winfield Scott. He had visited the Salt River Valley region in 1888 and promptly scooped up 640 acres to start a farming operation. In the first half of the 1900s, general farming gave way to a burgeoning ranching enterprise, with cowboys and cattle drives predominating the scene. In 1947, Scottsdale leaders made a conscious effort to promote a special identity linked to the Old West as a reflection of the city's roots and as a draw for tourists. The Chamber established a Western design theme for the downtown and adopted the phrase West's Most Western Town as its slogan. Today, the 185 square mile town is known more as the home of winter links and is even promoted as the world's finest golf destination. The list of professional golfers who have won here includes names recognized by even non golf fans like me: Ben Hogan, Arnie Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Ben Crenshaw. The annual internationally acclaimed WM Phoenix Open, held here, has set records as the most attended golf tournament on the planet. Scottsdale boasts more than 200 courses for the so called gentleman's sport, but reverted more to its wild side in February 2022 during the famed Tournament Players Club, or TPC, of Scottsdale's Stadium course, when Sam Ryder and Carlos Ortiz each scored a hole-in-one at the par 3 16th hole on subsequent days. The usually hushed audience erupted both times in uncontrolled, enthusiastic support, with pricey cups and bottles of beer showering down on the usually pristine grounds. While Scottsdale corners the market on golf prestige, nearby Tempe likes to show off its dedication to the arts. The town's name reportedly goes back to a comment in 1879 by Darrell Dupa, an Englishman who helped establish Phoenix. He had said the view of mountains, a wide river, and green fields reminded him of the Vale of Tempe in ancient Greece, an idyllic valley with a stream running through it at the foot of Mount Olympus. To actively cultivate a unique community identity portraying the town as a vibrant and progressive destination, Tempe city officials commissioned more than 300 diverse permanent and temporary public artworks. These are on display in various areas accessible to all, such as downtown, on neighborhood streets and bike paths, and also in city parks and on the Tempe campus of Arizona State University, which is ranked in the top 20 art schools in the nation by U.S. News and World Report. One local artist asked for people to be the good with this artwork, whose message, inspired by Gandhi's "Be the change you wish to see in the world," gets even further reach than this little corner. It's also on Tempe Public Library cards. 4 local artists were commissioned in 2005 by the city to develop art to transform unpleasant municipal objects into things more pleasing to the eye, which were then reproduced for libraries, making every patron a card-carrying art fan. Sprinkled around Tempe's town hall area are several pieces with interesting backstories and purposes. Tempe Roots, shown in the upper left here, pays tribute to the Hohokam people and the city's ancient history through petroglyphs and classic Native American symbols of corn, beans, and squash. In the upper right, Greetings from Tempe encourages visitors to strike a pose with the artwork and have their picture taken to create a homemade picture postcard. In the lower left is Organic Reunion, made from scrap steel from an old bridge that had once spanned the Salt River. Next to that is Solar Time, a sundial. On the left here we have Harry above the crowd. The 35-foot tall stilt walker symbolizes the community's respect for a former mayor and their gratitude for his accomplishments. In his hands is an inverted pyramid, which symbolizes the Tempe City Hall he faces, of the same shape. A steel, concrete, and tile base depicts milestones in his 24 years of public service to the city. On the top right is the bird bike locker. The artist, who says he likes to beautify everyday objects, decorated this utility box with birds native to Arizona, including the state bird, a cactus wren. Sprucing up another utility box is simply titled Bike Locker. The artist, an alum of Arizona State University, whisks visitors away on a scenic bike ride through the Southwest. An ordinance passed in 1991 expanded support for art to the business sector by requiring commercial developments with over 50,000 square feet in size to commission artwork on their property, or at the very least support local arts and culture programs, officials hope to have many meaningful landmarks created. This 7 foot tall couple at my hotel depicts two people formed from stainless steel. According to the artist, the sum of the two is greater than the whole. He adds why he likes to work in this medium. Steel as a metaphor vividly expresses the human condition. We are challenged to be both flexible and durable, beautiful and formidable. A second sculpture by the same artist, Lovebirds, is at the hotel's pool. As a result of the city's art ordinance, more than 80 privately owned works have been added, blanketing Tempe's 39.5 square miles with public art that is always accessible. Venturing beyond the main cities, Arizona's dramatic desert vistas beckon. In order to be considered a desert, an area has to get less than 10 inches of precipitation and have an evaporation rate of more than 10 inches per year. There are 4 recognized deserts in North America: the Great Basin, the Mojave, Chihuahuan, and Sonoran. The largest chunk of the Sonoran is in Mexico, with a piece in California and the remainder in southern Arizona. It is considered the most complex desert in North America, given the diversity of its geological structures, as well as the number and variety of plants and animals. What the Sonoran also has that makes it special is the ruins of one of the largest prehistoric structures ever built in North America, the Casa Grande. What purpose the 4-story great house served remains a mystery, because ancestral Sonoran desert people who built it left no written language behind. What experts do know is that the area around it was inhabited for more than 1,000 years, from 300 to 1450 AD, or CE as it's called today, and that the Great House was built around 1350. They contend about 2,000 Hohokam people lived in the village, tending crops irrigated with nearby Gila River water diverted through an extensive network of channels and canals. The region came to the attention of modern society when a Catholic priest came upon the ruins in 1694. Subsequent articles written about the mysterious structure later increased public interest, and tourists, as well as archaeologists, braved the train and stagecoach trip to see the ruins up close. To protect the grounds from eager visitors, President Benjamin Harrison placed 1 square mile surrounding the ruins under the government's protection as the first prehistoric and cultural reserve established in the United States in 1892. Later, it was also added to the list of national monuments. One of the most striking features of the Sonoran Desert is the Superstition Mountains. Designated a national wilderness area, the highest form of protection of any federal wildland, the range accounts for over 160,000 acres of the Tonto National Forest's 3 million acres. Several different tribes claimed their home in the range over centuries, but the mountains became an Apache stronghold in the 1800s, and so is most associated with that tribe. The Superstitions, so named by early settlers because of the many myths and stories told by local Indians, are the largest of the mountain ranges surrounding Phoenix. Visible from miles away, they rise steeply above the flat desert to a high point of more than 5,000 feet, and they're characterized by sheer-sided, jagged volcanic peaks. Running through the Superstitions is the Apache Trail, which started out as a Native American migratory path between winter homes in the desert lowlands and their summer homes in the mountains. It became a bona fide road at the turn of the 20th century, when the Roosevelt Dam was built across the Salt River, and supply crews needed a haul road to transport the materials. The resulting 40-plus mile stretch from Apache Junction to Roosevelt Dam was one of the country's first reclamation projects. Once the dam was built, the road was billed as a tourist attraction with stunning views. The Apache Trail, also known today as Route 88, was officially dedicated as Arizona's first historic highway in February 1987. President Theodore Roosevelt may have offered the best description of the region when he said, "The Apache Trail combines the grandeur of the Alps, the glory of the Rockies, the magnificence of the Grand Canyon, and then adds an indefinable something that none of the others have. To me," he said, "it is most awe inspiring and most sublimely beautiful." There is a network of some 170 miles of trails snaking around the Superstition Wilderness area. One of the best known is dubbed the Dutchman's Trail, an 18.2-mile long loop. Its namesake is the stuff of legend and mystery. During the 1840s, a family from northern Mexico, the Peraltas, supposedly discovered rich gold mines in the Superstitions. Their last expedition to carry gold back to Mexico in 1848 went terribly wrong when the large party was ambushed by Apaches. The secret of the gold's location was believed to have died with them. But, as legend holds, one Peralta descendant did hold the secret, which he shared with prospector Jacob Waltz, known as the Dutchman, although he was actually a native of Germany. In the 1870s, Waltz and his partner, Jacob Weiser, allegedly found and worked the mine, extracting oodles of gold. At some point, Weiser went missing, and local folklore suggests he was a victim of an Apache assault. But others at the time looked to Waltz and speculated he had done in his partner. Jacob eventually moved to Phoenix, where he died 20 years later, reportedly with 24 pounds of ultra-rich gold ore tucked away under his bed. Before he passed, it is said he gave the mine's location to Julia Thomas, a neighbor who had taken care of him. His directions were cryptic, though, with phrases such as, "My mine is located in a north-trending canyon," and "There is a rock face on the trail to my mine." Not surprisingly, neither she nor dozens of other gold seekers over the years were ever able to find the lost Dutchman's mine. Some met with foul play, or even death, contributing to the superstition and legend that surround these mountains. Disappointed and broke from fruitless prospecting, Julia came up with a scheme to recoup some of her losses. She reportedly made up maps that she sold to gullible gold seekers. In a paid interview with reporter and lost mine hunter B.C. Bicknell, she fueled the Dutchman legend, which the author then further inflamed, taking great liberties, exaggerating and embellishing the tantalizing tale. For a kitschy look at frontier life and the gold mining era, stop by Goldfield, a reconstructed 1890s gold mining town reflecting an era when it boasted 3 saloons. By the way, a little trivia here. We have Down on Their Luck cowhands to thank for the expression "a shot of whiskey." In the Old West, a .45 caliber cartridge for a 6-gun cost 12 cents, the same as a glass of whiskey. Lacking coin, a parched man would offer the bartender a cartridge in exchange for a drink, or shot of whiskey. In Goldfield, there was also a boarding house, general store, blacksmith shop, brewery, meat market, and schoolhouse. Just when it looked like the town would really expand, the mine's vein faltered and the grade of ore dropped, and the original town died a slow, painful death. Then tourists found it, and Goldfield got a new lease on life. Of particular note there are the exhibit on the Lost Dutchman gold mine and a movie museum dedicated to famous westerns filmed in and around the Superstition Mountains. There's even a memorial to those who lost their lives pursuing the dream of wealth in the form of this odd tribute rock by the old train station. When the current owner was digging a conduit, he unearthed the remains of a male who had died some 100 years before, as validated by a forensics team from the University of Arizona. They reburied the body and, according to the owner, gave him a grand send-off. In addition to a drivable road being built through the Superstitions, government dam projects on the Salt River left other lasting footprints in the area. Most significantly, reservoirs formed behind each dam, like Canyon Lake here, created in 1925 when the Mormon Flat Dam was finished. The confluence of colors is staggering after the open desert. Rock cliffs stand in stark contrast with deep blue water and green cacti. The lake's 950 surface acres is popular for boating, water skiing, fishing, jet skiing, and a steamboat ride aboard the Dolly. Lucky cruisers can spy wildlife in the area, but you have to be really sharp eyed to pick out some bighorn sheep who camouflage themselves very well in the rocky environment. Another beneficiary of the dam projects is a little spot called Tortilla Flat. It can't actually be called a town because it never met the threshold of having 100 steady residents. It had gotten close at some points, mainly as a home largely for workers on the dam projects. It even had a one-room schoolhouse, but it never quite made it and it remained a settlement. Today the population is only 6, but tourists keep the place on the map and flock here to step into life 100 years ago. Inside the saloon is a real treat. Actual old saddles provide seating at the counter, and walls are papered with signed bills from patrons who happily leave their mark and money in the place. Literally, every square inch of the walls and ceiling are papered with signed dollar bills as well as foreign currency. Some notables who have stopped by reportedly include President Teddy Roosevelt, Clark Gable, Glenn Ford, and Ida Lupino, who starred in the movie Lust for Gold about Waltz's search for the Peralta mine, one of many Hollywood bonanzas filmed in the area. Alan Ladd, Loretta Young, John Wayne, Don Johnson, and Barbra Streisand, when they dated in the 1980s, are said to have also put in an appearance or two. Also, a major star of old westerns is the town of Sedona, about 120 miles north of Phoenix. Ranked at the very top of USA Weekend's Most Beautiful Places in America list, Sedona is described in the report as a place that looks like nowhere else. The area epitomizes the rugged character of the West, with its photogenic red rock canyons, dramatic sandstone towers, and wind-shaped buttes. Those are specific geological formations characterized by isolation, steep sides, and flat tops. Native Americans first discovered and settled the area about 11,000 years ago. They were followed by homesteaders, artists, and most recently, New Age spiritualists who assert that mysterious cosmic forces emanate from those red rocks. The town is said to have many so-called vortexes, or places where the earth seems especially alive with energy. Ancient Yavapai people lived all over the Sedona area, painting petroglyphs and establishing cliff dwellings, indicating to future archaeologists and visitors that their creative force, the energy of their great mother, was powerful and palpable. The concept is not unique to Sedona. The idea gained popularity in the 1920s when a photographer and amateur archaeologist noticed straight lines seemingly linking ancient sites in certain areas of the United Kingdom. The theory is that big, important monuments like Stonehenge and the pyramids of Giza are all running on a kind of energy highway that connects them. Some claim these ley lines carry a powerful magnetic field, while others contend they hold a psychic power. Bell Rock here is one of Sedona's 4 main vortex sites. Perhaps it's really just the power to awe that gives Sedona such a mystique and a reputation as a place that inspires, recharges, uplifts, soothes, and restores, just by visiting and letting the incredible natural sights spread their magic over you. You might believe in the magic of Sedona once you look closer at Munns Mountain. How else could you explain a particular formation made by Mother Nature that resembles an icon for so many? If you focus in on the right side, you could swear that is lovable Snoopy resting on his back, taking in the afternoon sun. Perched on his nose is his constant companion, Woodstock. Art, nature, history, and commercialism have a vortex of their own in town. Tlaquepaque is an arts and crafts village and the most distinctive shopping experience to be found in the Southwest. Fashioned after a traditional Mexican village, Tlaquepaque translates to the best of everything. It has been a Sedona landmark since the 1970s, but its vine covered stucco walls, cobblestone walkways, and magnificent arched entryways cultivate a sense that it's been here for centuries. Giant sycamore trees stand among galleries, and unique shops add to the timeless beauty of the grounds. Originally conceived as an artist community, Tlaquepaque is a perfect setting to watch gifted Sedona artisans create their masterpieces, or check out ones dotting the center like this Mustang Pride with a hefty price tag of $96,000. It's also often the scene of lively celebrations, like the one I stumbled into marking Cinco de Mayo and the region's Mexican heritage. Between Sedona and the Utah border, you can catch a piece of nostalgia and travel a short distance along Route 40, better known as Route 66. You can stop by Williams, the last town in Arizona to suffer the impact of a high speed interstate highway built in 1984 that largely skirted small cities and left them to become ghost towns. Unlike some others along the famous route, which was completed in 1926 and wound more than 2,400 miles from Chicago to LA, Williams saved itself from complete oblivion by rebranding the town as the gateway to the Grand Canyon, with a train taking visitors for a roughly 2 hour trip directly into Grand Canyon's South Rim Village and Depot, thereby skipping traffic jams typical at the park during summer. Williams promotes itself as a place for tourists to reminisce a simpler way of life. And it actually looks very much like pictures of it dating back to the 1930s. We'll finish our visit to Arizona and its northern border with a stop at the 710-foot high Glen Canyon Dam, which formed Lake Powell. The dam was built by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation in the early 1960s on the Colorado River, near the town of Page, by where Utah and Arizona meet. Lake Powell, billed as the second largest man made reservoir in the United States, has been a source of grave concern in recent years, as climate change and overuse have caused a major drop in the lake's water level to only about 25% of its capacity in 2022, the lowest ever. This visual tells the sad story with a glance. The white cliffs mark the decreasing water level. The primary purpose of the dam was to store excess water in Lake Powell, as well as to generate power for neighboring states. But its dropping elevation makes it less viable as a source of hydropower generation, and some say it's time for it to go. Environmentalists view the situation as an opportunity to get rid of the lake altogether and rewild the canyon, letting the Colorado River flow freely downstream toward Hoover's Dam and Lake Mead, the country's largest reservoir, which is also suffering and is currently only at about 30% capacity. Of course, that doesn't sit well with all locals. Many rely heavily on the lake's draw for tourists. However, there could be a silver lining and another type of appeal for tourists. Conservationists say a drained lake will unveil a lost national park, one that could easily rival the Grand Canyon south of Hoover Dam. Before waters filled in Glen Canyon, it was a maze of sandstone cliffs and spires with over 2,000 archaeological sites. The reservoir lake is named for John Wesley Powell, who in 1869 led the first expedition to explore the then unhindered Grand Canyon by boat on the Colorado River. He wrote of the experience, "We have a curious ensemble here of wonderful features, carved walls, royal arches, glens, alcoves, and monuments." Page fortunately has other wonders nearby to amaze those who enjoy nature at its best. When most people think of a desert, they think of skyrocketing heat, arid conditions, and lots of cacti. But not all deserts are the same. The Great Basin Desert, the U.S.'s largest, is a cool or cold desert, the only such one in the U.S. Here, that 10% precipitation benchmark for desert classification comes less in the form of rain and more in snow, and there's mainly low vegetation like sagebrush and very few, if any, cacti. It includes large barren areas and some spectacular geological formations, or buttes. Another spot near Page, not to be missed, is the positively stunning Horseshoe Bend. In a part of the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, which also encompasses bits of Utah and the Navajo Nation, the Colorado River makes a wide sweep around a towering pillar of sandstone with such a dramatic effect. I like to end all of my programs with the words of Dr. Seuss. Sometimes you don't appreciate the moment until it becomes a memory. And I like to add to that to say, always remember to celebrate the moments and treasure the memories. I hope you've enjoyed your journey through the diverse environment of Arizona. If you have any questions about this program, email me or use the contact page on my website, which is also where you can visit any of my European destinations. Or check my programs tab to see what I'll be presenting, either virtually or in person. If you enjoyed this look at America's not so wild west, you might want to catch my Canyons and National Parks program to visit the Grand Canyon South Rim, Antelope Canyon, which is arguably my favorite, Bryce Canyon, which isn't technically a canyon, but everybody calls it that, and Zion National Park. Each one is so unique. To see them all is a truly enriching experience. So long for now.